So, Mr. Chernor, 14 months of investigation. I think on our first article come out, we na been the 1st of March. We mentioned Boku thing, you and you co-journalist, Mr. Mark Feldman and Matthew Anderson, I believe, that the First Lady received 15 billion loans, okay? And una pull documentary evidence. And una also cite some, I use una young word in inverted commas, frivolous spending. She went on a frivolous spending spree with public money, even though he denied. And you mentioned travel as well. And since then, the First Lady don't receive beaucoup thing them, beaucoup money them, where you mentioned. I want you width and depth again for let you dwell into that finally. Let we just understand once and for all on we own platform, because we know say they will still continue for ask question, for clarify, Usa it go wrong, because I mean just they look for the tip for play, I'm so then go yeri and let you self-analyze them. Outside the First Lady go wrong, waiting he abuse, how much money he don't receive, why he received their money then they, and why their money then they don't match on at all. And you therefore forgive me, it sounds repetitive, but today they ask you for day on a teaching. You are a journalist, an investigative journalist, you are an academic, you don't teach. You get books that are being taught in Western universities, and disgracefully, I go say at one time, I read somebody, they say, I won't call names, like, let's educate the educated fools. And we don't know, now we know for ourselves who the educated fools are, but at least we get one academic now the platform here tonight. So help we again with the First Lady, just break and down for we, everything that you've said and arrive at, Usai the First Lady stand, Usai Africanist press stand, please.
Well, in the first, I think forget to the simple aspect of this, now that from March 1 to now, okay, to March 1, 2020 to today, March 19, 2021, more than a year now, or a year, some weeks, we don't publish, I think, 22 articles, 22 reports on Sierra Leone. We therefore deal with question of corruption, fiscal mismanagement, frivolous spending, and all of this, department to department. This year alone, from January to now, we don't publish, for example, say the president and his wife alone spend in December alone, 3 weeks of December, and spend over 5.2 billion, which is over $500,000 on travel. That includes the trip to Gabon, the trip to Conakry, the trip to Abidjan, and the trip to Bond for the Christmas holiday. Then we not stop there. We publish again that honeymoon, where they go to Lebanon, where they say a honeymoon, the cost honeymoon of everything. They took over $1 million, okay, wow, from the bank, including more than about $410,000 will be presented cash as the biggest cash withdrawal in single transaction by any president. But we don't say that one day. Then we move on. We show that the office of the First Lady does receive nearly 30 billion, of which almost 8 billion was spent on buying tickets for guests, furniture, food, stuff like that. And in all these articles we publish, beginning from last year to these recent ones, there has never been any government official or anybody, including a journalist, with a different people, or anybody else, we don't able to prove, say, any of the details what we publish is wrong or false. They haven't shown documentary evidence contradicting the documents what we publish. They not ever. In fact, for the most part, they have admitted that what we've published is correct, and then things say nothing is wrong with it. That's the only difference. The other response, now for say we are APC or we have been paid by the opposition. In fact, I've read in certain newspapers, government newspapers, that I'm a Guinean, I'm not a Sierra Leonean. So the other time I read in the newspaper that the vice president is the one that is funding. Then now I'm reading in the newspaper again that the audit service is the one that's leaking information to us. So basically for over a year, the government has arrested people, in response to our publication, they have sacked people. They are harassing people, even within their own party. They're harassing. They have written, no, they say, oh, then party paper, they don't write against the young vice president because of Africanist press.
Yeah.
Okay, so nine they work with we. They don't it right now as we speak. They are harassing the auditor general, forgetting that that same auditor general was the one who they gave the responsibility to do forensic audit into the activities of the APC, and they used that in the Commission of Inquiry. That is, forget about the reports that the audit service published during an Nkrumah. So what I'm saying is that the other journalists that we don't write about me were from government. Now people don't know where they cost me. The press releases from the chief minister, for example, was the most hilarious one. Chernor and his so-called Africanist press. So they have basically been unable to contradict, to reply to some of this, to deny. They've only admitted it and saying that we now opposition, in fact, Africanist press and opposition funded media group. We now operation group that's funded. One other one said I was given $5,000. The other one also, 2 days after that, they said $200,000. They say, somebody say, they don't even pay $200,000 to me on Kuna Frito. We may not get on Kuna Frito himself. So what am I trying to say is that I am opening a challenge to anybody in government or anybody that wants to defend this government. Come out and tell me that the bank statement that we have published of the Office of the First Lady is not true. They haven't said that. They say it's true. The First Lady said, yes. Who say you feel say they pull that money there? Forgetting that it's an illegal. You don't get right for receive the money in the first place. If you don't get right for receive money, you don't get right for spender. So whether you spend whatever, and you spend again the wrong way. So she hasn't denied it. In fact, they were forced to say they are investigating, but if we say they investigate, they say they want to go look for people that will be done die force for bringing them as witnesses. So basically, the individuals who are insulting me because they sabi me, because I believe if Africanist press never had Chernor Alpha, but they will not be insulting me. So if I've been there at the backstage, so because I don't see them writing about Mark Feldman or Matthew Anderson and all these other people because they don't know them. Okay, they know me. It's so convenient to select me out. And one of our newspaper, the chief minister, in fact, the funny thing that is happening is that these people sit at State House, they write articles against me, insulting me. They give their media boys to publish it. So at the same, and the interesting is that I have ignored all those insults, and because the final analysis is the bigger picture is we have to talk about this massive loot of the treasury. For me, I consider what we are doing as a struggle to rescue the treasury. They've emptied. If you want to know the gravity of this situation, ask yourself if you get savings as a loan, where you go to a bank if you access your money easily. Nobody should have difficulty getting their own money that they put in a bank. Nobody, because we are not under a situation where government control people and private money. We are in a free market economy. Why should we get to a situation where citizens cannot access the amount of money they have in banks? They are genuine money because the treasury has been looted by these individuals. That's the plain truth. There's no other name for it. So if you want to defend this government, tell them 2 things they have to do. Let me return the money where they don't loot out of the treasury, transfer to the country. It's going to be easy for them to do. Then you can say money is in the banks. Because when somebody will get 30 million, go now for go take 2 million, they say, no, 200,000 they give you. I mean, that is not the responsibility of the Africanist press. We did not. Now, for example, they are harassing the audit service. They fail to ask themselves, was the audit service responsible for allocating 30 billion illegally to the Office of the First Lady? No. So you see,
Chernor, when you come to the audit,
I don't try for saying is our policy is we will never publish any article without supporting primary evidence, documents from government by way of letters.
So on the basis of primary evidence, Mr. Ba, of course, you don't already make the assertion, and distinctively so, that nothing will be published if we not look for, search for, or use primary evidence, which I believe is an essential ingredient when it comes to investigative journalism. So in this regard, Mr. Ba, and in some degree of fairness to those that are being accused i.e. the president, the chief minister, where will they come to next? Have we made, or have you made, or the Africanist press made efforts? Because yes, when we talk about primary material, them we can go look for them other side. But are they talk about personally contacting them, their offices for material that will be relevant to them claims their way you they make or the Africanist press they make?
Yeah,
people that want to make any effort in that regard.
Of course, in the first place, the rule is for most investigative journalists, they will tell you, like, for example, you see a letter, if they say they don't sack, like Chernor, for example, they was sacked, there is a letter to the effect. Okay, so if you get a letter by itself speaks on its own terms. So for some people to do investigation, when they run into the evidence, they publish, okay, because the evidence stand on its own. But what we do, we even go beyond that one day, for, you know, and say, we contact these individuals, we write them emails, we call them, and also get record of our interviews with them. For example, the statistics, no, sorry, the NACIT story. We contacted the NACIT people. We spoke to the public affairs man and said, this is the story that we have. Can you corroborate? Because we've understood that there is 60.9 billion, which is not showing in your account. The records show that you generated or you collected in contribution income over 600 billion, but then in your bank statements, you have less than 600, about 500 and something billion, short of 60 billion. How did this happen? So, oh no, I cannot talk right now. I'm going to church. It's holiday and all of that. So I said, okay. We said that to him, that look, we appreciate your response, but we are going to include that as your own response in the report. And whenever you are able, then you say, oh, okay, how do I know that I'm even speaking to the Africanist press? I said, okay, do you have an email? He said, yes, we can send an official email. Then we sent the official email. We said, we've sent you an official email from our own, you know, editors at Africanist press. So you know it's ours. They say, oh, I cannot access the email now except after the holiday. I said, okay, we're going to put that in the report. Whenever you send us your response, we're going to reflect it. So if you write a reply to we, you send them to we, we'll go do them. We'll go publish them. But for now, the information what we get, we're not going to wait for you till tomorrow because the responsibility for you to reply. We've given you fair, so we add them. Where you look at the thing, inside it. Sometimes we send them, the same thing happened with NACOVAC. When we received this letter where the Attorney General has written to the audit service saying they cannot investigate, they should put a hold on the investigation. So we call the Attorney General. He said, I don't speak to journalists. That's what he said. He said he doesn't. We get that on tape because we record these things because we know these people deny sometimes. If we not chat with you by chat, so we'll get a trail of the conversation. We will also call you by phone and we make sure we record the conversation, the interview. So then we contacted NACOVAC spokesperson. Instead of say, oh, I cannot talk right now, send me an email, I will look. So we send the email. We not receive a response 1 day, 2 days. So we published the story. When we published the story, they sent us a response saying, oh, you published without our response 2 days later. And now this is our response. We say, okay, we'll go look at them. We'll go feature them in the next time we look at your office. So we actually do engage where it's necessary. We do engage.
Okay.
Where we find out that the evidence in itself speaks on its own terms, and there is nothing to confirm, the evidence confirm itself, we can publish them. We stand by the evidence. So there are rules of investigating journalism that we even step beyond for our own part because we try to be fair. The objective here is to get the conversation going and open up the way government they function to the people and allow the people to also be able to talk to leaders and leaders to talk with them. But sadly, when these reports come out, what we get from government people is insult. Now, NACIT never replied. They held a management meeting after the first publication, decided they are not going to reply to us. What they did, then Bengali, who we spoke to, went to the pro-government newspaper, the Global Times, and then begin insult with a so-called whistleblower. So he said that in the report. So then the subsequent article we publish now about donations that they are giving to even the wife of the president. And then they wrote an article inside NASIT and then used somebody's name and then published the article again in the so they are responding indirectly. They say, well, we tell. But
yeah, absolutely. And without
so they don't really engage. They don't reply. Even when we call on them, they don't reply. When they reply after we publish, they insult. Then they insult.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's the thing. And I really do appreciate this. And we get over 500 people to watch this, and subsequently, this is going to be heavy. We're going to get like thousands of people. We're going to hear from the horse's mouth himself. So for those who have been a member, say the Africanist press not follow procedures. This is why we are asking the question where the people want for let we ask with a capital P. And that's what we are asking them, will they get the clarification? So these people not just go ahead and begin for publish left, right, and center. And from what we understand, it seems like there was a deliberate attempt or some degree of ignorance and arrogance for dismiss the Africanist press as probably supposedly some other cheap media propaganda will go amount to nothing. Because like we'll be not the same at this platform, some sort of little algorithm had been developed. It don't involve any complex mathematical formulas, just basic way when they talk about something, you're not getting bearing, or if you get really bearing, it's not complete. So in 3 days, in 7 days, at most in 21 days, it's over. But unfortunately, the Africanist press has been around now for many months, and it caused some serious problems for the government. And the government itself will have to, hold themselves accountable, because the man went to them and say, this is what we have. Can we discuss about this, or can you help? Chernor, in 30 seconds, before I go on to the next question and cede the platform over to Supermed. Yes, you do all of that, even though they don't respond, and we know we sort of second guess why, and you eventually, or the Africanist press eventually catch the emperor with no clothes on. This is exactly what's going on, and when they respond, now with vexatiousness, because of course, they are caught with no clothes on, that's not the emperor. But you get government archives. Did you derive any of your material from government archives, the Freedom of Information Act within us alone? Did the Africanist press use any one of their outlets there?
Well, that's like asking for the source of information, which practically is hard to talk about. But these are the thing. A journalist, this was in the newspapers, a journalist by the name of Matakabo, I read it in the papers anyway, by the way, because the follower within the Happiness Salon, send a request to the bank governor asking for certain details through the Freedom of Information institution. So the Freedom of Information people write to the bank and say, so they refused. They ended up fining, they then give a fine. The Freedom of Information Commission issued a fine against the Bank of Sierra Leone for refusing to disclose information to these journalists. We asked.
Okay, Chernor, I said 30 seconds.
So this one, just very recently,
right.
The NGC and APC, I think, wrote a letter to the bank asking for information and stuff like that through the speaker. Has anything happened? It has passed more than the time they've given. So really, you can guess now, if we approach of public officials, say, disclose how you thief money, disclose how you don't use good money, will that happen? So that's where the investigation comes in.
Okay. Let's move on to Chief Minister. Like I say, we get so many things for talk about, and then I see the platform to Mohammed Supermed Kamara. Fambulem, we target 750. Then we projected viewers, live viewers, what we expect tonight. We've come close to the figure in terms of 500 and some more. They approach the 600. You can help us for reach that mark there, not in a selfish nature, because what we discuss now is about a country of 7 to 8 million people where they search for their heart and soul. In about a few days' time, we go to celebrate in sense that a time for inflection and a time for reflection. 30 years after the end of a civil strife, have we learned anything? Did we learn anything? Luckily for we tonight, we get a very special guest. You can call him the whistleblower, you can call him the investigative journalist, but what they are unveiling, what he is unveiling on the project which he is part of, it don't provoke a new thought. And we believe that there is a cultural change as a consequence of a cultural shock we don't they happen at the country. But because this cultural shock is so new and is so sudden, you know where you can get a jolt, whether or not electric shock, it can take a while because you get disorientated. But we know eventually people then go suck all of this in and then go let reason for prevail. So Fambulen, we get none other than Mr. Chernor Mba. Quickly to the chief minister, and I suppose a Superman definitely go to this particular point as well in terms of the chief minister. Mr. Ba, una they investigate financial probity, okay? Now that's not the kind of thing and they una they look to. Corruption, embezzlement, people are when they follow procedures and processes which seem to be rife. The rule of governance, democratic institution, fight against injustice, equity, nine people and they ask for. It seemed like the chief minister in office being involved by irregular cash withdrawal and many other things that will be happening, amounting to billions and billions of leons. Mr. Ba, una don't do an immense work on this one as well. Do you help for enlightening Fambulem on this irregular withdrawal, the abuse of processes and procedures, especially for a very powerful man as the chief minister? What does this mean for the rest of the country?
Yeah, there are many parts to it, but the two most outstanding one then on the question of procurement. Okay, the first article where we published for shows over 30 billion spent by the office of the chief minister was spent basically without following the public finance laws in the country. And that is crucial. It's not just about, there's a reason why somebody want for violate, lay down rules and procedure. So the chief minister's office not deny that. One, not deny the amount of allocation, the amount of money where we say the figure. Okay, instead, the chief ministry's statement, their own press release signed by what they call them permanent secretary, say the money was approved by parliament. Okay, why make that argument? I will talk say, well, this money not like the chief, not like the first lady in your own way, na illegal money, na money where parliament approved for we. Okay, we never wrote anything that parliament did not approve it in the first place. Then the second part of the press release say the chief minister's office get 4 different units. Basically, what the chief minister is saying there, not to we be the talk to, the office was basically talking to other people in government who have not received their own allocation, budgetary allocation. There are ministries, government agencies and departments where they receive and complete annual allocation. Some are 2 quarters more in this, some 3 quarters, the year go down. So basically what that press release was saying, that even though I'm receiving this huge budgetary allocation, it's not just for the chief minister's office. Now, all the other small DSTI, this other one. So basically was a justification for the size of the allocation, and also a justification saying it's not an illegal allocation, but we never said an illegal allocation. We said the money was spent without following the rules, was spent illegally. Okay, then they argue, say, for example, point at procurements that were done without an open bidding, without tender. So they justified that by saying they had the right to do so. They were given an order or a clearance by the NPPA being allowed them for do, close bidding and sole sourcing. And you're talking about millions of dollars here in this case. So that one day alone. But so the NPPA present a letter where they write July, saying I tend to don't give the chief ministry the right for do close bidding. But then when you look this the statement, the chief minister account start on August 26. So the question is, how the NPPA give clearance for the use of money that was not even allocated in the first place? So which means these people went and made a fake document to a letter for just justify it and use the money appropriately. They know what they know. So because if the budgetary allocation happened on the 26th of August, which is when, because the same account where the Office of Chief Minister they use, so now the same account the Chief of Staff was using before now. So when they appoint this David Francis as Chief Minister, it just continued that account day. So it's different from the First Lady where there was no account in the name of First Lady. In the case of the Chief Minister, it's the same account that was being operated by individuals who held the position of the Chief of Staff. So on August 26th, the account then became known as the account of the Office of the Chief Minister. So by August 26th, the first budgetary allocation was paid into the account. The question then, if NPPA, Soare, they talk say, they've been aware of this procurement, and if an get authorization for do the procurement on a closed bidding or sole sourcing, the question is, how did you give an authorization in July for a budgetary allocation that never existed in the first place? So in the defense, every time these people defend themselves, you just see but when this noise is happening, the thing that makes this conversation very difficult is the what thing we can, for lack of a better word, cacophony of voices, all kinds of voices, and the noise stampede deliberately. Then they do a stampede for close down the conversation. But if we take the argument that the thing was done in close bidding, the bidding was okay, even if they're not advertising, they don't say okay, then we went as far as showing now the other side of this use of public money, which is the cash withdrawals. We point out over 10 billion, which is more than $1 million of cash withdrawal, money taken cash. Yeah. And we show even not just the amount of money, but how frequent weekly by specific individuals. In this case, Sidiki Jabi did most of the withdrawal. You get Jasper Sembi, you get this individual, and none of these individuals deny, say they work in these offices or they did these transactions. So the evidence is about, which is why after the first defense, nobody in the Office of Chief Minister was able to say anything anymore. Instead, they just allowed their journalists to go and insult, begin a cause all sides they had to have, which is understandable, because other people who have done similar kind of work, our colleagues who have done similar kind of work, they're either in jail or they were murdered before they completed 2-3 articles and don't assassinate them. You find the evidence in Mozambique, in all over the place in Africa. When you look, Carlos Cardoso, you look at Delegiwa in Nigeria, you look at all them here. So for me, in as much as they threaten this and this, and then I look at the insult. So I tell my colleagues, this is compared to what has happened to other people who have done this kind of work or similar kind of work, or not even, or who have tried to do this kind of work. I think we just have to accept the insults as just anything that breathes. You don't understand. So that's how it is. But what I'm saying is that you cannot justify those cash withdrawals as a normal thing. You cannot. They have defended the idea of per diems the same way they say, is it wrong to get per diem? Is it wrong? No, it's not a question of wrong to get per diem. The question is why only specific people, now that they travel frequently, now they normally collect per diem. Not everybody. When you look at the other people, the way they travel, collect per diem. For example, there is this note about John Tambi, who went on a conference, and his per diem was less than $3,000. And you see David Shenge, you see David Francis, when they take per diem is 5,000 and above. So you see this, and they make frequent trips. For example, they come to New York and they have to do a stop to Chicago, and all this. So they take multiple per diems for the same country that they're going. So it's the idea. Then when they put out this, they say, "Oh, illegal," because I've seen them make this argument. The Abraham John from the Chief Minister's Office write and put Facebook and say we are criminalizing per diem. we are criminalizing salaries. No, we are not criminalizing these things. We are just saying you are using what is supposed to be, you know, a normal process as a method for divert money. Because how can you justify 10,000, 15,000? We aggregate no more. In 6 months, we find out that some individuals go and collect $60,000 in per diem within a year. Okay, that is how much of the salary of a nurse. The total salary of a senior staff nurse at the Ministry of Health right now 20 million. Okay, for the whole year, 22 million. Okay, you get doctors who were on strike, not being paid. You get babies who are dying for lack of generator, and you have a single individual collecting in a single ministry collecting $70,000 to $80,000 a year, which is even the salary of a highly paid person in America for the year, or in England or in other places. So that is not to talk about their salaries. This is just money they are making. Nobody's going to arrest them for this in the future because they can say, I went on a trip. Because all what you have to show is that you collected the money and you go on the trip. So only 30 people are in the travel.
So the process, if we understand you well, is a process in which there is some kind of manipulation and a kind of redefinition of waiting corruption supposed for mean, and then they meander or try to go around them so it doesn't appear like, say, waiting and they commit or waiting and they do or the actions waiting they take amounts to corruption.
Yeah, this is why it's been so difficult for people to point at the evidence, because if without this kind of situation, it's difficult for to say, because you see them traveling. Okay.
Yeah, then, government missions, so
government ministers and all that. So they use travel as the opportunity for divert public money, because then if you make 5 trips in a year, each trip now 5,000, 7,000, you get.
So, but Chernor, will that amount to corruption itself? I mean,
of course. Any deliberate diversion of public money, any deliberate diversion of public money, an act of corruption. The intent, the use of the law in a crooked way for make you look.
But not only thin line down the way we all they try for traverse, where they create this, friction between X and Y, left and right, because
but if you forget about that, there are other incidents. Then an example.
Justify them.
If you throw out that one day, for example, how can you justify $1 million equivalent of $1 million in cash withdrawals? And only that
I get that completely exposes the entire venture. But the idea that then the travel,
that's what I'm saying.
Because it kind of legitimate, and I listen to you make a case earlier on, will make a lot of sense, because before then, because I've been following public service and public travel, then he mentioned the delegation where they go, who that involve. Because, like, for example, the president, they go on a bilateral visit or on a trade visit. Now, the people that were relevant to that visit, then go form part of that delegation, and then they go publish the list of the delegates that within that delegation, the way they go, and waiting now they mean for the country. But of course, we are in different times. But I think Superman want for jumping, and let me just
clarify that point about the legality and illegality of this thing we talk about. The fact is, we have to get to this. We have to go back to the manifesto. This was something the SLPP
executive order number 1, fiscal discipline.
But when they don't use, because they were conscious of this, when they don't use public money, you remember the president himself, who has taken the highest amount of per diem in travel than any other president in recent times, got scared, in my own thinking, by the amount. And that is what makes this thing about taking a bill to parliament for add law for say.
Yes, the impress, yes.
Now they're not for check me for impress, because in future when they check this amount, because there's a normal amount. For example, if you travel, standard DSA can be between, for UN standard, $250 to $500, sometimes $400 to highest $500. Okay, and that include they take money for pay you hotel bills and incidentals.
Wow.
In our own case, these people they write say you're entitled to DSA, UN rate plus 45%. So if you say UN rate plus 45%, basically you're talking about $750 minimum. Okay, then in our own case, again, all of these people who are traveling, that amount does not include their hotel, does not include, for the most part, their tickets that they are traveling with.
Wow,
so
Chernor, this is news to me.
No,
and
it's not news.
Therefore
This is the
emphasize
evidence.
that point there again.
These are the evidence. These are the evidence we don't publish, because
right.
people publish this appointment letter of the HRMO, the Human Resource Officer, in which you see if he's sick, he's entitled to treatment abroad. If he, even when he died, the family entitled to 1 year annual pay and gratuity. You saw that. So we've been publishing. So they create this better condition of service for themselves, as the leading party members and their friends, and then leave out what makes it more corrupt and criminal in itself, because they leave other public sector workers in the most horrible conditions with the most terrible pay, and then devise methods for themselves and then use the methods, and they alone. They are the only people who are traveling, who are benefiting from this. Okay, if it's legal, now they make an exclusive opportunity for themselves. When you look at the office of the chief minister, most of the people who took the highest number of per diems, now the chief minister and David Senge and one or two other people. Okay, they are the people who are the frequent travelers. They are the people who are the highest per diem takers. And where other people travel, they get less per diem than they are taking. So the same for the office of the president. The president is in fact, with a plan, say, this April, we will begin show how much the president in travel don't cost the country. The totality of all in trips them. Because people say, hey, don't travel 100 times. So now we get for show, for example, in 2020 alone, the year was in a corona year, how much the president spent in travel, how much in travel cost, both domestically and externally. In 2019, the same thing. So then you will begin to see now, is this, let's talk about, let's forget about, oh, I will go for travel, because the thing they've talked about is that they travel for repair the image of the country. It was known for war, Ebola, and all this kind of thing. But how much, at what cost? How much money? We even don't show, even the time when in Canada, New York, for the first time, they sat down with Bill Gates. Even that opportunity to sit down with Bill Gates cost the country over 200 million leones, because they pay the company in London to fix the meeting. And we were told Bill Gates won't go invest in a salon. Has he ever invested? What did we gain? So these kinds of crooked methods of deceiving the people and stealing money through legal, what you call legal channels. Now we call illicit financial flows. Illicit financial flows, now the way they use existing mechanisms for divert public funds into some other ends through what is supposedly legal channels. It's not just an act of corruption. It falls within international financial crime definition. And that is why.
Before Superman comes in, and please, I just read one information on the chat room where I want to Chernor deal with just quickly, and Chernor deal with them quickly if you can, please. And this is from a brother called Edward Amara, somewhere in Europe. Okay, he says, Mr. Ba, as an academic researcher, your report is mainly the result of your research, not more of your own thoughts like you are now doing. It is important you tell more of your result, not personal view, as you are now doing on then and now. Mr. Ba, is that what you're doing? Is it more of your personal thoughts or the research way you conduct?
Well, it's subject to the possibility of listening to your interpretation, but I've been speaking on the records, on the evidence.
Come on, Mr. Amara.
That's what it is.
Anyway, I just wanted you to touch on that.
But the thing is, like I say, we can publish information. We also look forward to people in interpretation. That's Absolutely. Why you see, I even said up front that we don't even attach our own interpretation to this thing, because like now we put financial leeches on the payroll. We just show the evidence. This is how many, how much. And then we sit down, we also look at how people understand it, what people take from it, and how people interpret it. So the question of interpretation It's so if the broader way to listen things in my opinion, what we are quarrel with it. The fact of the matter here is I'm talking on the evidence. If the evidence allow me for say what I say, now that I say. If the evidence don't allow me for say what I say, I don't go make them claims then this. So that's what I would say. You can only have an opinion based on evidence.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ba. I just want interject a little bit. Let me say explain within that brother they ask, because within Mr. Ba they do not the platform. We say they ask and some of it say they explain to we the process and procedures then. So in order just they don't bring out the evidence for show the corruption, then it explain to we how government supposed to run, how it's supposed to use per diem, I not supposed to use per diem, all the other different things that it entails. So maybe somebody go see and say, in your opinion, no, I think say they try for enlightening we, now we know where you say, okay, somebody don't take $1 million for per diem, then they explain to we how that person they use the per diem when a legal process, where they use them in a crooked way so that you will take plenty money. Now that's how say Mr. Barry do. I mean, I don't learn quite a lot. But Mr. Barry, what do you want to go by in terms of this chief minister issue? And a twofold, because the one is when we publish that report, you be talk about then consultancy, but then media consultancy them where the office of the chief minister say they use for promote the question more. Give the example this now. Will Bill Gates the way cost me 200 million? But let go deep. Let you explain that to we in brief as well. Then also there was a journalist where be try for come up with a report say at some point where that journalist be end up for arrest him. I think it was Mr. Lamrana, where say about $1.5 million was paid in dollars, was paid to the chief minister in office.
Saliu Jallo.
Yes.
Jallo.
Yes, it was. I don't know whether through an investigation of now ever came across any kind of payments and they, or maybe now something I look forward to because I don't think you've got all the accounts them. But if you get any idea about that, you can able enlighten me small. But basically, now the consultant system where the office of the foreign of the chief minister be they pay. And why? What are the benefits? Because it's all about value for money. What's in the benefit? They're going to give the example of Bill Gates. We'll go pay, we cost you 200 million. What you don't benefit from? You can able expand a little bit on that one, please.
Yeah, we highlight the aspect. We will see these wire transfers. For example, what do you talk about? So Beyond Words Studio, when a public relations group of journalists, researchers in the UK, they own business of help package a government. So a lot of things that don't happen as alone from the Pademba Road incident. For example, Prison Watch get this report, internal investigation when at the prison, where I understand they don't ban them, not for even go to prison at Pademba Road again for work day. This is not a civil society organization or human rights organization where they watch prisons for make sure the prisoners are treated right. So they investigated. I think their report is going to come out and not even give government the opportunity for respond to the internal investigation. Government, although instead they don't ban them from going there. That news did not ever happen, has not been reported in Sierra Leone. Nobody not ever talk about it. It's on the weeks now. So it has not also featured internationally. And no civil society organization apart from Prison Watch will ever talk about that. So it deals with the question of how stuff like that can happen when you attract the international world. It deals with both public relation efforts at home and outside. Now, one newspaper, right, but the Nation, I think the Nation newspaper, I think, but the East African, one of these newspapers in East Africa, either Kenya or Tanzania, one of them, I believe Kenya, report, highlight a very detailed thing. If you're not here, you know, check them out. I can send the link of the report, that news report. But it only went out to Kenya and never made it outside of Kenya. So apart from the Kenya, maybe perhaps, I believe, so there one or two other newspapers in the region, East Africa, maybe Tanzania, because for the most part, anything will appear in the Nation or the East African can show up like the citizen in Tanzania. but none happen. Because what we investigate right now, what we highlight that chief minister and some people for return to, they use how the government will capture the local landscape, hold all the media. In fact, until now, you find out, say, people were silent. That people knew some of these things, the report, they happened. Although they not been getting hands into the hard evidence, but they knew about it. But there was free ride. The government enjoyed free ride. Part of it got to do with this money they were don't pay to people them outside of the country for making them do for them public relation. So the international community as well, looking at Sierra Leone, that's their point of reference. Oh no, they see Al Jazeera, the president was there talking about how he defied corruption. Because for them, when they say they arrest previous officials in government, how they understand it is not that this is a technique for muzzle the opposition, but to them, this is an effort for deter the recurrence of acts of corruption, because people in governance now see what happened to people in the past. They know citizens can be held accountable, they will not do it. And that is the argument the government has been making. So for international people, they deal with them, the IMF, the World Bank, the Transparency International, these institutions, that is what they know. And when they ask civil society organizations back home about how the situation is, no, the people committed to corruption, this is arresting people and make them accountable, it will stop other people from doing it. So the international write that in their reports, because there is no alternative source of information. The other source of information, where for don't come out from opposition groups, from other groups, everybody that is not for that narrative is considered APC, is considered the opposition, is considered. So basically, the government not only capture the media and civil society, they also do massive public relation campaign through the office of the chief minister and you see the operator, those money transactions. If you look at the finance ministry account as well, they see some of those payments happening. We're going to come to that as we go along. But even for the Africanist press, it took us a year, one whole year of dedicated publication from March 1, okay, to 2020 to this 2021 before the Africanist press operations get outside of the borders of Sierra Leone, even within the papers in Sierra Leone. Now, for example, the AYV newspaper, they write articles, publish articles written by people at State House that insult and because they even wrote that article to say that we are being taken to court. They not ever contact we. They've held discussions about us. They've never had the courage to call us. It begs the question, why? So, but for what we investigate is we know why, because they see, the records tell us why. The records tell us why, tell us who is standing where and who is representing who. So we know all these things. So we were not oblivious of the challenge that we entered into. We know that, which is why you see this thing when they come up.
I just want to interject quickly no more this point you make, so because I think it's very important. That means, as I understand, the states they use we own resources,
of course,
for block people for talk for we, so that
of course, it's called image laundering campaign, state capture and image laundering campaign. So until you find out that almost 11 months into publications before this massive corruption hold on the report on, from the finance ministry to leadway to evasion of taxes to non-payment of revenues, come and reach the international media. It took time. And that is why you see when for the European region, for example, when they finally pick up the reports now, you see they did a contrast. They say, like Radio France get this line where they talk, say, this don't come as an embarrassment to a president we've been talking, we don't ban, you don't issue a blanket ban against everybody we've been doing governance. Okay? What is the importance of that? It's like putting everybody under house arrest. When you put a travel ban on people, specific people, when are opponents, you don't put them under what you call a loose house arrest, where you don't barricade surround the houses and homes with troops, but you've locked them in the country. They are in a free jail. kind of situation. So what is the benefit of that? It makes sure that whatever happens in Sierra Leone stays, because there are no one or two of the people and they know we will come out and talk to one or two other people, we will make them get an alternative opportunity for listening to different kind of information. So this is how the government kept everything else that's happening intact in Sierra Leone. This is why I think, with all humility, the intervention of the Africanist press became crucial. That is why they're angry, because for the very first time now, people are beginning, outside of Sierra Leone, are beginning to see or look for an alternative explanation on the question of graft. This is why you see this government that says they are fighting corruption are now opposed to what we're doing, why they are name calling. They are comfortable with the Anti-Corruption Commission, but they're not comfortable with the audit service. This is the first government since we begin to get an Anti-Corruption Commission where, okay, them and their supporters and their journalists are okay with the Anti-Corruption Commissioner. Okay, we had Abdul Tijan Cole had a run with Anas Bai Kuruma because he showed the determination to go after people under the Kuruma government. Okay, Val Collier had the same situation with Tijan Kaba. Val Collier, of course, was one of the early anti-corruption commissioners, but they don't even get the power with the current commissioners and get it, just the start. But this current commissioner and the current commission get more applause from the government, from the president and the supporters of the ruling party than they have. Supporters of the government and members of government are opposed to a journalist like me or the audit service or any other individual where Sano, who was part of them, was receiving a civil society man, where he raised questions, they sacked him. So,
okay, thank you, Mr.
Why, so this yes. They answer your question. They are not just using money to silence and keep information. They are also using the paraphernalia of the state structure, the army, the police, the court, the state institutions, for harass anybody or anyone, including the media, for harass anyone. They don't threaten journalists then at all. People there, they threaten and say, if we feature anybody now.
Chernor, permit me quickly, just 30 seconds, please. Sorry for disturbing the flow. Fambulen, from the beginning of this program, I advise, I mean, this is a national conversation that we are having. We can disagree for agree. We are all Sierra Leoneans. Yes, what in Chernor Bari do now revelations now they make, but there is a need for let we check on waiting they say, how truthful they are. Don't be driven by other people's opinion. Demand a reference, they make citations to books, documents, laws of the country. Again, what I want to say quickly, and this is the last time I say, we will not go tolerate insults because I see few insults they ongoing at the chat room. This is not tolerated on this platform. We intend for keep this platform very, very clean, both to you, the guest, the platform people, the way they host the program, and Una, when are the viewer them. So we expect maximum respect. Let's respect ourselves. Let we disagree for agree or agree for disagree, whichever way, and we move forward. After all, now one conversation, now one country, when are the common denominator, Sierra Leone, and I guess say, despite with differences, what we all want now for the better of the country. I said this the last time. So please, either you respect yourself or you will be taken off. And I look at comments now while the conversation they go on. Sorry, Chernor, go ahead, please.
Yeah, now that's the type. So this, if I can just say a word on what insult for us, these insults definitely are going to come. That I want we get used to now, because the fact of the matter is, these people think that's the only weapon that's left with them now, you know. So, but they have to learn that if they should have learned anything by now, if they don't know, say insult the stuff, we will carry on the conversation. So whether they insult, then say any kind of word, the conversation is ongoing. It has been ongoing for almost a year now, and it's going to continue. I keep reminding them this. We haven't even touched up to 10% of what we're talking about. So you just start getting angry, Ali.
Okay,
I appeal to them to get to begin to reserve that anger, because they're going to get more angry as we move forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but coming to this point, so it's not just about frivolous use of money for take money from the public budget. They use money to also suppress people where they expose corruption, threaten them, and all of this. So it's been happening. We are dealing with a more bigger scale of different manifestations of corruption, different manifestations of dictatorship, and the effort for stifle citizens from speaking out and scare them and make everybody fear what's going to happen. Like now, for example, nobody is talking about Kamarimba Mansare, who is still in jail. His health situation is deteriorating. So these kinds of situations, you saw what happened to Herbert George Williams and Darami. They were kept in jail for almost a year, or even a year, only for them to be discharged without evidence. So what can you do for the amount of time we don't put in a jail, the health condition? You cannot. They haven't talked about compensating them for that. In other parts of the world, if you do that, the individuals sue you. They take the government to court and then pay damages. You know, we repeat that kind today, just like that. So we have to make our democracy work by making sure people are aware of some of these things, how the technique of governance, the techniques of dictator, the tactics of new style of dictatorship. Now they're talking about bringing a cyber law, and the media is there sitting. And that cyber law, somebody just wrote an article saying the cyber law is more dangerous than the Public Order Act. Mm-hmm. Pretending to remove one law that is against journalists, and then bringing another law that is more dangerous to free speech and the right to expression for everyone, not just for journalists, everyone, opposition or ordinary citizen or everybody. So we have to, this is what is at stake. It's not just about this special group of people insulting, and they can do that. That's the only strength they have now. So make we deepen the conversation, but we intend to run a couple of articles on this state capture of the media through advertisement, through debt. You get newspaper in a way they don't care go to court self. They say they go for pay NACID, they go for pay NRA. They cannot publish anything right now because 100 million, 200 million newspaper they pull down for pay. That's alone. But when you have that state debt on your head, you're careful what you do, because next thing they will say now, you know they pay taxes, they close the paper. So these people are determined. When you look at all of this, it comes down to one thing. It comes down to what I think and believe, based on the evidence in front of us now, that it's a determined effort, not just for loot, but for entrench a dictatorship that will facilitate this ongoing corruption. Because if you believe, say, you will left power anytime soon, you cannot steal public money in this way. You cannot run government in this fashion, because you know you're going to be held accountable. So that is what citizens need to understand. It's not just about the national treasury. It's about civil liberties. It's about freedoms of people, the ability for live peacefully in a country and hold an opinion about what is happening and express that opinion without the fear of being raided at home or being held and detained and harassed. And you cannot operate, you cannot run a newspaper, you cannot run a business if you not support the government that is in power. We cannot have that kind of democracy. We cannot develop a country that way.
Okay, Mr. Ba, thank you very much again. I mean, this chief minister issue, the way I don't analyze, and so how the states, basically state capture, how the states, they use we own resources. So I can say that they fry you by your oil. And they do so for Mosul and everything, control the narrative. But unfortunately for them, unluckily for them, there comes the Africanist press. Always say we don't keep and prepare at the dark, say, oh, now so go control all things, control the media internally and externally. There comes the Africanist press, because we can say, God need to sleep. The people of Sierra Leone are suffering. And this now first-hand account of people they relate to all the time from Sierra Leone, east, west, north, and south are suffering. And if they do so, God not go sleep, God they expose them. And that may God bring out una the Africanist press for expose them. So like we at this platform, we're grateful very much for getting you now today. And as we first for wrap up now, I will pass him over to Mr. Prince Emil Koma. I think say this particular side of chief minister is so big, but we'll just touch up, but maybe in another later date, We'll get Mr. Baba for come and we'll expand on them in details. So Mr. Koma, over to you, sir.
Yes, indeed. Supermed, many thanks to you. And once more, Fambulem, today, the 19th of March, 2021, we are having an important, very important conversation for the heart and soul of the country. And they once more at a crossroad. Not only the first time we did a crossroad, we've been at a crossroad many a times. But this year and subsequent years to come, especially next year and the year after next, is so critical for as a country, that that conversation there is so serious that we should have them, but have them under a conducive atmosphere in which we don't feel intimidated by anybody. So we all feel as one under the same jurisdiction, Sierra Leonean first, not a party, not a color, but just Sierra Leonean first. So tonight we're having Mr. Chernor Alpha Emba of the Africanist Press, a whistleblower, an investigative journalist, an academician, and you name it, doing marvelous work for the country. And we established the credentials earlier on by this interview. Are you being paid? Are you in the take from somewhere? Of course, he established all of that. He said, no. And he tell we waiting exactly the Africanist Press. They do. We're not only limited to a country. So we need to understand this conversation because they on a higher level. I believe that's what Mr. Ba has been asking for. And that's what we do ask for on this platform as well. We run out of time quickly, and the issues are so important and so many and diverse. We will probably get ask Mr. Ba for another commitment, in a very, very busy man, but at some convenient date, a year later. Mr. Ba, I want to talk about the circumvention of corruption, because like we see processes will look like they are being innovated, something new, some kind of phenomena where we all try to understand. But some of it looks so smart, and you speak to that earlier on in terms of legitimizing processes and procedures, even though they are wrong, and thereby the effect is leaving X and Y confused. So this kind of conversation, they ongo, in which person like you, where they do revelations of this kind, even they find it difficult for educate with masses there. But I don't think this is something you're going to give up on, because I can see the commitment. I want to talk about Timbergate. That'll be another major issue before we come to the audit report, which is very essential or central to this conversation. Part of your report, and me read that report today, where the figure we hear about timber being sold, and not look for much the exact figures as timber is supposed to be sold. But as we look now and get the benefit of hindsight, we don't begin to understand few things, because again, if we talk about the innovation of corruption, how people and they try for circumvent procedures and processes just for legitimize something we're not right, then we can begin for piece together the puzzle will look like it was just another act of corruption. We also want to talk about the company involved and the man involved, and from waiting with the hearing from resources, this same man is being very threatening to you, but we go come to that. So Mr. Babadi Kamara happened to be a henchman. And I use this in inverted commas because that's what we've been understanding. They send text messages then to people where they threaten that very entity, any affiliation to the connection in terms of the timber. For fumble's sake, Mr. Ba, tell me, how come the Auditor General got caught up in some kind of a conversation regarding timber, the cost, where they get for translate the measurement of timber from cubic feet to container, will make the figure appear completely mesmerizing to a lot of us, say, this figure is out of touch, and maybe for once we wrong the government. Dear Mr. Ba, shed light on this container business, this timber business, the measurement business, the kind of money where they talk about billions. Leadway Company and Mr. Babadi Kamara, please.
In the first place, I think if we repeat the same timber story, we have not exhaust the Leadway story yet, and it's very important to get back to them because now one one of the biggest examples of, you know, the undercutting of national revenues by the government. In the first place, the government that necessarily make the legislation say any exporter of timber for pay $2,500 per cubic meter of timber. And then in 2019 alone, where the audit happened, if you check the custom records, you find out, say, if you assess by cubic meter, when that the measurement supposed to be, the government ship over 2 million cubic meters of worth of timber in 2019. And that, if you calculate by the figure we then give, you arrive at an annual figure of over $5 billion. So instead of following the law, the rule of measurement and pay the exact amount, Leadway just decide for shipping containers and charge themselves $2,500 per container. So which means they did not pay the required tax according to the law that existed. And with the audit service, they assess revenue with potential support for generate in a particular sector. And this not by accident too. Now they self-develop the law in cabinet and this also is a reflection of their manifesto. And even the budget speech, it did in the first 5 paragraphs of the finance minister's statement to parliament that they are going to raise timber levy. So they raised timber levy, they refused to impose the same levy on the company because the company has a vested interest of those in government. So when we make these revelations, which in the response say, it was a mistake. It's not a mistake in the law. The law supposed to say container instead of cubic meter. But then they go find out if they put container again, they violate the Weight and Measures Act that was passed in 2010, which prevents Sierra Leone, or which changed the weight of measurement from imperial to metric system of measurement. Metric system of measurement means that for timber and other kinds of products like that, you measure by cubic meter. For petroleum product, the unit of valuation, not the liter, not a gallon anymore. If now for meat and other kinds of products like that, the unit of measurement is going to be kilos instead of pounds. So that law was passed in 2010. So if you go in a container, it means they disregard the existing legislation where deal with Weight and Measures Act. So I think when they go to Parliament and make and they realize that, and they then come back and then say, they change the container where they say they put cubic meter. They never advertise them because they know say it challenges their logic of mistake in the law. So what are we talking about? We are talking about the same thing. The use of legal channels for loot the country. Then when they get caught, if enable normalize themselves, so if it happen APC time, then we say a mistake, the mistake. Okay. Now you see this is the kind of argument they've been putting forward all over regarding the law. Even NACIT is making the same kind of excuse. The difficulty with the current First Lady's story and the Chief Minister's story that the fact that nobody saying a mistake. You see, instead they want to draw other people inside, or they want to say this is how it has always been. So that is the tendency. If they cannot pretend it's a mistake, but Babadi Kamara, by the law and Leadway, they owe the people of Sierra Leone for 2019 alone over $5 billion. They cannot escape that one because they've already committed the act before the government saying a mistake. So that's revenue.
I'm going right there, Mr. Ba. When you say they cannot escape that one, throw some more light. Which exactly?
Yeah, because of the law. If the law talks the way they ship granite, these are the tax way for pay. They don't pay the appropriate tax. You put 7 and go find out. Say that you talk say you don't be paid the appropriate tax because you make mistake. The law in tax higher than what is supposed for tax. So you cannot violate law and then say you were ignorant of the law or you made a mistake in developing the law, because the law went from cabinet, it went through parliament, and then received the approval of the president. How can it be a mistake? Are you saying all these people who debated the law did not get it? So that's one thing. So you find out since then, Leadway the government knowing exactly that this is a crime that they've committed, they've been doing public relations campaign. They don't make videos, they do PR. You see where accident happened above, Babadi goes, McKinney goes there to donate 40 million. He takes care of, a few days ago, he was supposedly appointed team manager of Leon Stars. And now all of a sudden they say no, because there's controversy surrounding it. But there's an effort on the part of these individuals for cajole the community with our stolen money and then try for legitimize themselves. But we're going to return to the Leadway story to show another significant aspect of it, which people know. We're not to just this tax evasion. So what we're talking about here, the refusal for pay taxes, is a tax evasion. And the Minister of Finance and then passed the law. So the thing that is shocking or interesting here, a business company violates the law. Instead of the business company providing its own defense, the government officials from the ministry, from the chief minister's office to the attorney general's office to the finance minister, and then they defend this company where the company not violate the own tax law. When a law with a recessive person, then tell the world, say they're going to generate domestic revenue. One way of generating domestic revenue is by increasing timber levy. Now the increased timber levy, the company not pay the right taxes, they are caught. The government defend them and say it was a mistake. Why? Because the president has a vested interest in the company. We don't show that. He appointed Babadi Kamara because he's a finance man. So that's why you see all these senior people in government. We get even letters where other companies were put out of business despite the fact that they had trade license. Their license were revoked on the complaint of Babadi, revoked through a letter from the office of the chief minister. We have those correspondences as well. Authorizing that Leadway is the only one who forget monopoly over timber export. Why? Because people in government, from the president to his senior cabinet minister, they all have a vested interest. The law firm that's defending Leadway's law firm, and the law firm of the current attorney general.
Wow.
So these are the things, but people, so it goes beyond just the idea of tax evasion, non-payment of correct timber levy. And this is why they are angry with the current audit service. But forget about the audit report. All you need for just look at the Asikuda record. Just look at the custom data, because you cannot forge the custom data because it's part of an international system of record.
Yeah.
So, but they keep attacking the audit service for what we don't know.
Okay, Chernor, we come to the audit service very soon. And a day, I think, say we go wrap up the program. But just before we go to the audit service, all of these things, then you don't say, or where the Africanist press don't they allege to, it all bordered around a certain institution of the country where most people then will agree that are the ACC and its leader, Mr. Francis Ben Kaifala. Okay? But all of the things that you don't say, most of them, Francis Ben Kaifala, if he does refer to them, if he does listen to what you say, it doesn't meet the standard way una set. In other words, they look for some kind of a justice or equity in behalf of the people. Because again, we hear other people and they say, because the people that are being accused, and you yourself, you don't say them many a times by this particular conversation who they are beholden either to the party or to the president. So we bring Francis Ben Kaifala inside this particular program in terms of all the corrupt practices, the way we don't talk about, or where Africanist press don't talk to. The First Lady, and I think that was the beginning of this program. When Una allude to corruption by the First Lady, which she denied first, she said no before she said yes. When finally, out of pressure, the ACC boss decided for looking to Ram, unfortunately, I use the word, it decides say it will investigate the office, which you don't agree with that title, the office of the First Lady, going back 14 years. And then many other things, 49,000 bags of rice missing, we say it get the evidence. Investigation of former government officials, including the most high profile of them all, the former president of the Republic, a man you were very, very critical of, because probably some people in know either message they use that you call them a corporate gangster. I don't know what kind of language way other person will use where they can accuse you of siding with people and way once upon a time you accuse them outrightly of corruption, call them corporate gangsters, embezzlement of Ebola fund, yet you're doing the same job today, but then say you did on side with the same people and they where you criticized yesterday and then even use your material against the very people where you been criticize. But when they talk about the issue of Ben Kaifala and the ACC, will you have much on that small, how whether this institution a compromise, whether the head of the institution is conflicted, whether it get limitations in the sense that it looks like now the president I employ him and your employer, how can you go against your employer? Is it about state or is it about protecting the people that we employ them? Yuri, shed some moment for we, please.
Well, I think the people of Sierra Leone already get, don't make conclusions around these things, because they see how the commission and public institutions function now. The question is just made simple by recent development. Why are they comfortable with the ACC, but they are not comfortable with the audit service? Why are they hiring people for attack? The Africanist for just writing about cases of corruption. I'm sure if we were just writing about the past government officials, they will not be so angry. They will be like happy. But this is not the thing. Our job here is to highlight and expose incidents of corruption in the present continuous form. We did that with the Ernest Koroma regime, Ernest Koroma's time for 10 years. The evidence can be found in the current ruling party papers, including the newspapers that are now attacking us. You look at their archives, you find the evidence of how they republished all of our work. So in the current moment, our current situation is the current commissioner has an opportunity of showing the people of Sierra Leone whether he's serious about fighting corruption, and how he's going to do that is by picking on this evidence. Now he has promised investigating the wife of the current president, but he wants to go back 14 years. He can also do that. But it don't be 2 months since they made that promise, I think. They need to be asked how far they've gone with that. They need to be asked, what are they doing with the office of the chief minister? What are they doing with the NACIT situation? And we are going to report more incidents of corruption. What are they going to do? So basically, the Africanist press is going to report. We've already reported on corruption in the past. They haven't done anything. But now they have been forced to pick up the office of the First Lady. In 1 or 2 media interviews, I've heard the commissioner say that we are not, we don't know what corruption is. We just have access to whatever he thinks. So he dismissed the relevance of what we are doing, but now he cannot dismiss it anymore. So the government got the opportunity for show people them now with the Africanist press publications, whether they want to fight corruption or not. But it's going to be I had a group of people now saying, I think NGC people, we are saying in one of their interviews, they push down, they say they push down big pass. What in the other big pass they push. So I don't know what that is. But what me go commit now on this show is that we are going to continue publishing this evidence and material evidence of corruption across government ministries. We've done the office of the president a little bit. We don't do the office of the chief minister. We don't do the wife of the president. We don't do NACIT. I think we're going to spend 1 or 2 more weeks with NACIT, and then we're going to move on to other ministries and departments and show across government how these exit flows, they happen. Who say money don't come out, who say money don't come out, ministry by ministry, agency by agency, department by department. Then we will begin also look outside of the country, whether any of this money is outside and where they are and what they've been done with.
Oh, wow.
Who are the people who took it outside? So okay. I expect that we might spend the next 12 months again looking at Sierra Leone specifically. Right. So
okay, Mr. Ba, it's just for time purpose, because we quickly come to the end of this program, and before we end itself, I want to say thank you so much. the preparation where you get, because you even get more energy for go on and on and on. And this is where we make the determinant factor for no people where sort of they try for champion cause in behalf of a country. Supermed, we come towards the end of the program, and I know say you still get a few things the way you want through at Mr. Ba for address.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Prince Emikoma. Mr. Ba, once more again, Mr. Join and for tell you thank you plenty, because you don't enough like cause for save the country, and God will bless you for that. I believe say today now don't get thousands of comments then, thousands of comments, and I will say 95% of them are positive comments. People they tell you thank you, people they pray for you, safety and everything. So that alone don't show the appreciation where the Sierra Leoneans they don't get to what you do so. And luckily for we, I will take out thank you with Facebook and all others. We don't get the platform they like today for make you message. They reach we nearly, if not to 50-60% of Sierra Leoneans, I mean, know what they go on our country. But before I go further again, I want to tell people and say tomorrow inside Salon, now this same platform, we go get lawyer Ahmed Sise. This now another APC stalwart we get a lot for do with about the law and what's called the legal issues where the main opposition party APC they face. Tomorrow get at this platform 8 p.m. So please don't forget for tuning in. And like what I said, Mr. Ba, overall with all the publication we don't see and the overwhelming evidence, despite all the strategies them where people they try for discredit them, the attacks the way they face. Who's one part them, Padentia where you publish, where you feel say, anyone, if ever, any credible government there for Canada country, they want fight corruption. Not like a clear evidence they don't do for them. Maybe for say, maybe today, the people who get anti-corruption not go fight them, but tomorrow, then go able to fight them. Palentia we don't publish. Who's one they go get overwhelming evidence. Where before say yes, where any other credible government come, they will just say, this is my final question now, Mr. Ba, because they call some of the time don't they go, you don't do patience we and pass again for come back because we were more than grateful for you telling me today because we say so they listen to you, we say so they ask the question, we don't learn so much. Plenty all confused, but I will not be sure about. And I believe say the audience they so they listen we so they when they watch me so live, they say don't learn a lot. You really don't enlighten me. So as my final question, I just want to see also if he say it gets so much solid evidence. Now when I call a direct own goal for prosecutor, enough for take with if we get any good prosecutors or one prosecutor in a salon, enough for take with that long. Who's one part anyway if he say the evidence we don't provide we're so solid?
I think say each of them articles I will publish, not to standalone reports. They're all part of a single thread where they deal with illicit financial flows, the various aspects of financial crime and corruption. So each of them were an example of the grand scale nature of corruption. But I think none of them again fall below a threshold we lack evidence of it because the evidence in itself is primary. If you take the case of the chief minister, how do you explain these massive cash withdrawals that alone and not only that, we even insist say there were 3 Prado vehicles bought for nearly 2 billion for the office of the DSTI, and there's still, we said, there is no evidence that all of the vehicles were supplied, and they haven't denied that. So each of these reports where you take on their own individually, you can do anything with them in terms of material evidence. But this is what I want to tell the people and say, we not publish it really, the real aspects of graft. I'm sure by this April, when I will begin now see really the grand scale nature of it. So if people are shocked by what they've seen, I assure when I say, what's shocking really they be in the kind of the future. But yes, all of these are part of a single thread of a story we get for deal with a group of people who can power with the promise that they're going to end corruption, they're going to fight corruption, they're going to reduce waste. So basically, they have acted completely opposite from their election promises, from their public performance of fighting corruption. For example, how you go explain a situation like the president going to Lebanon with $1 million cash withdrawal, all the expense without the cost to $1 million. Then he came 2 days after that, he said, don't launch a white paper for go after him political opponents, for go arrest them. I mean, what kind of public hypocrisy is that? So this, for me, it's not just about the evidence of prosecution for whole people responsible. There is no way any of these individuals can free themselves from any of this. That is why they haven't responded. If you left to themselves, they not be one made the First Lady admit, but the evidence is so overwhelming that you cannot ignore it. They ignore it for 1 year. Pretend that what we are writing is that they made sure no newspaper was repeating, no radio station, nothing. But because we believe in the evidence, we know say we go reach on side, we go make sure say they cannot keep quiet. And that is what we got to by January. When we got to January, we knew they were going to say something. And when we get to April, it's going to be a different scale. And the more we go before, the more the situation they change. So I am saying that it's not about the evidence, it's about the fact that the government cannot ignore the people of Sierra Leone's demand for accountability and transparency. They cannot remain silent forever. They remain silent with the Africanist press publication. They end them bombard and they send them bombard on our Facebook for tell we say, now lie, they lie, now this. But when it comes to the real stuff now, when we begin center the real characters that were involved in the whole thing, even the one way because we when they state out in the cost, we not look for them now. They all don't hide because they cannot defend this anymore. They cannot.
Okay. Chernor,
so by April, it will be different games.
Chernor, this is quite interesting, and if we continue, this might not end. So I want to see whether we can able for publicly get you for commit to another interview or conversation, because this is quite revealing, and the time not really enough. The bombshell is so much that we can go on and on. Imagine we are over the 3 hours mark, or we approach 9, 10, 11, and we are going to 12 o'clock, almost 4 hours of conversation on the heart and soul of the country, and we appreciate you for this. And we can go on another 3 hours, but this will be unfair to you and some of we guests them for letting them grab the information. So maybe we'll go get for left in the next 5 or 10 minutes and probably come again and continue where we are. And we really appreciate you. Superman, you get one last word, because I want to ask them.
Yes. But we're
a series of short questions, short answers. Then we wrap up this program.
Okay, thank you very much, Prince Emin Kuruma again. And I just want to say, I want to tell the people who watch this program live, plenty, hundreds and hundreds of people, to over 500 people. I want to tell them all thank you, because they're patient, because we don't spend so many hours, but the discussion is so intriguing. What Mr. Bali, the enlightening of is so intriguing. We are all hooked. And the question, hopefully, one of the days when Mr. Bali less busy, because it's a very busy man, we will come back and enlighten me more. And what the current administration failed to realize is that we will capture the state media now the country, but social media they like today don't become another engine. Because I believe for where Mr. Ba begin publicizing in feminism, social media don't really play a big vehicle for making plenty people know what thing they go on. And so now make us say nowadays, if they try for cover something, you get a big tax 98. So once more again, Mr. Ba, I tell you, thank you plenty. And on behalf of this platform, the people who watch me, we guess them, people who go for watch this, I believe say thousands and thousands of people who go for watch this interview subsequently. I tell you all thank you. And may God continue for guide and protect we country and guide and protect you as well. So over to you, Mr. Prince Emin Kuruma. Let you go wrap up like I say no more. We don't all this program is too, but it's more than worth it. It's more than worth it. Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mr. Superman. And thank you so much for being that able co-host, from whom I've derived some energy and oxygen from, and to Mr. Ba. Like I've been say, Fambulem, we don't come to the end of this program, and there are many other things that we will not cover. We will be planned for cover. Like, for example, we're not even talk about the role of Parliament. We just brush over them, but it is so important and central to this entire conversation. We're not even talk about the role proper of Madam Lara Pias-Taylor or Taylor Pias in terms of audit Sierra Leone, when a key document or key person where also they help for hold government to account, then the gatekeeper. Okay, so we don't even talk about this mommy don't get this job from 2011. Now you don't get this job. In 2013, of course, the job don't evolve over a period of time, and it helped for shape and such, because I believe at some point, I mean, just there as some kind unit under the Ministry of Finance, and then gradually it evolved for become its own independent body. We're able, and the remit now for justify and put the report out to the Sierra Leonean people or the public in general, which she's doing. But because of issues of corruption, they go down well. Why, if you're not corrupt? Why, if you don't have issues? And then people and they publish information for the very public whom you derive your powers from. And then you get issues with that. And then suddenly, Madam Lara Pias-Taylor is under the limelight, being vehemently attacked, smeared, blackmailed, coerced, repressed, and you name it, simply because she's doing her work. She's not done anything else other than doing her work. Anything will be an affront, to a democracy. And that's why we need for speak up. Like I said, we'll not even talk about parliament. We'll not talk much about audit, Sierra Leone, but definitely we go get for bring Mr. back so that we can talk about these particular issues then. We'll not even go at length for talk about Mr. Ben Kaifala and the ACC, because the issues are many. But I believe, from public opinion and public interest to this particular conversation, which has been had not only on the DNR platform, there are many things, where would they learn from this and where would they derive for form some kind cogent opinion or policies we go forward to a new republic. Just before I ask Mr. Ba for summarize this entire interview for we, please, family, will not forget tomorrow, Supermed will be on the program with the Inside Salon today, na the Den and Now Empire, with, I believe, he's a lawyer, Ahmed Sise. We therefore can talk on many issues then of USA we day again in terms of the national conversation. On Sunday, there's going to be a calling program on specifically the ACC and its boss, Francis Ben Kaifala. There will be a question asked. The question is, or a proposition made, is Francis Ben Kaifala a hero or is he a villain? And we understand the context. But of course, during the show, they will develop them. That will happen on a Sunday, and I believe Supermed will be in control of that program day as well. On the 28th, we go get Mrs. Madam Femi Claudius Cole, one of the few presidential aspirant them or head of a party where they can talk about party politics and where they can talk about this decentralization thing, where they talk about APA and PPRC, when are all parts of the corruption process where the Africanist press they do. So we get many programs they come on. And on Tuesday, which is the 23rd, we know we just get an outlayer of what we want to do for commemorate 30 years since we war ended. 30 years. What have we learned? How far have we come? So probably we will speak to people that will be actively involved, maybe from jail all the way in Rwanda, Kigali, the capital, people that will be partaking in that war, including one-time chair or the person will be head the RAF after the demise or the jailing of the RAF leader, Corporal Sankowina, General Hassan Issa Sisi. So we go also have him on the program, but we go let Una know by tomorrow. Mr. Ba, thank you so much, sir, for being very, very patient with the then and now. We do appreciate you, and I'm sure there's a host of Sierra Leonean, and we appreciate you. But this is my final thoughts to you, just before I give you the program for let you close. First of all, they seek some kind of obligation or commitment from you. We will let for bring you come back, because of course the interview is never complete until it is completed. So I wonder whether if I ask you publicly whether we're able to derive an answer, say, will we be able to get you back in a short period of time for can continue and put a close to this particular conversation, sir?
Definitely. In fact, before I make that commitment, I want to express appreciation for the kind of work we want to do. We live in a movement, for example, when I don't sacrifice a good number of hours for host this kind of conversation, that is real commitment to a country. And it's something that I don't take lightly. I take when I work very seriously because I know the kind of effort that's been done by people where they loot the country and benefit from the loot for keep this kind of conversation away from the public domain. So without platforms like yours, this kind of conversation would happen. So it's no small thing. I owe you people a great debt of gratitude for helping to make this conversation happen, because it's in our interest as a country and as people the way they call Sierra Leone, we own home for multiply this conversation. So I'm definitely going to make myself available anytime the opportunity arises. We just got to negotiate the convenient date for Una and for me with Duam. And also, as we move forward, like I say, April, moving forward now, we're going to get into more serious stuff. And I believe that serious stuff will demand more conversation. So yes, I'm open to that. I will definitely make myself available anytime when I need me.
Okay.
The most appropriate.
Thank you so much. So Fambul Unadon for Unasef, and we are very grateful and thankful to Mr. Ba, because we all into this together. Because why? We try to find a pathway we go develop and prepare a better salon where we go left behind for we people and we picking them than the one where we find we self in. Mr. Ba, just for wrap up this program here tonight, this wonderful program that we've had here tonight. It's more personal, and I don't know how much of the backlash. I think I asked something like this from the beginning. How much of the backlash, the visceral attack, the smear, the innuendo, the ad hominem that's been thrown at you, the kitchen sink, if we can make it that way, that's been thrown at you that you were prepared for, because we don't know people are waking prepare. You can prepare for certain scenario, but then the gravity of it becomes so intense that yeah, even though I've been expect 2-3 mami course or course, but not to this level. How much of this you were prepared for? And now that you absorb all of it, how much of it you don't take in and decide, say, there is no turning back, because I know exactly why I'm into this, and I will continue for march on in behalf of the people of Sierra Leone?
Yeah, this I will separate the Africanist press from the answer. The answer personally for me, because that's a personal question. The fact of the matter is that anybody will know me. I believe so even the people where they use for insult me, if they know me, and I believe some of them know me and some of them I know them, that no amount of insult, deter me for pursue things that I want to pursue and do them. If anything, they accelerate the zeal with which I do them. The only thing it's interesting. Some of these people again, make I tell the public, I know them. Some of them have been even calling me, even when they insult me, they call me again privately for say, hey, if I need to settle them. There's nothing here to settle. It's an insult to even think about settling. But as a human being, we attach decency to the way we do things and how we hold ourselves. So, the return, the field that people throw at you because of that. But many of these individuals that you see insulting me have been calling me once, twice for talk about, hey, do you have how they make so? Because I know them, but I'm just amused at the extent to which they decide to go in defense of a salary. But I know the final word is going to be the people. The people will have the final word. The people are going to pass a verdict against the theft of public resources. And after then we go see face to face, and we're going to be friends with these people the same way we were friends a couple of years ago. So I don't hold grudges for them. I understand why they are angry. I empathize with their situation, but the country's interests come primary. So, like I said, the worst don't happen to other people who decide to do this kind of work, or we don't do this kind of work. Insult at the bare minimum. But I take also the threats to my life very seriously. I've been reporting and filing some of those reports, and I encourage anybody who will listen to me, we receive threats for participating in conversation regarding Africanist press reports, for sending to me. find a way to send it to me personally. I'm cataloging this. I'm sending them to press freedom organizations or any human rights organization. Well, no, I've been doing that. I've been filing all the reports of, these messages of threat, death threat, especially messages that are directly threatening my life. I take them seriously and I'm reporting them. And anybody will receive similar kinds of incidents of threat relating to the work we do, I encourage the person to also make it known to me. I will incorporate as part of the reports and what they file regularly to friends, organizations, and allies to help draw attention to the situation in Sierra Leone that's happening. Because we need for use our own situation as example of what happened to other people that we don't know about. And that's what I'm committed to doing. And I've told one or two of them people in government who are calling me to beg me say, hey, settle. There's nothing to settle. There's nothing to settle when it comes to the question of stealing public resources. No. Yeah. You cannot steal public money and come here and begin to pretend you are negotiating with me because we are friends or claim we are friends, and then you go outside and insult me. No. The settling here is about running the country the way it's supposed to run, managing public resources the correct way, and stopping the harassment of people who are speaking. That's what you have to settle. Once you settle that, we have no problem with you. It's not a personal conflict. So I tell them again that I've told them when they call me privately that each of these incidents of harassment and intimidation and death threats and all kinds of insults I do, I am collating them and I'm sending them to every organization or individual that I know that would help to make sure that the people of Sierra Leone and their rights are protected, including myself, because I'm a Sierra Leonean. Now you begin to hesitate. If you go to a country, what will happen to you? We don't want that kind of situation. That is what we have to settle. We have to settle the climate of repression, the climate, this corruption that is ongoing. That's what needs to be settled. So that's what they say. So we know, so I can talk about this for the whole thing. So I just want maybe end and just assure people, be rest assured this will continue. We are willing, the Africanist project is going to continue, not just for Sierra Leone, in other parts of Africa. When I go read, we report that we try to make them every weekend. We publish very soon. We try for even make them twice a week. That's what we are discussing right now. Hopefully, we will commence that this summer, so it will become more intense than what we have now. And I will assure the people that when they read, we are not going to publish anything where we not sure say it is 100% tested to be true, that we can defend and stand by the evidence that will speak on its own. That's the only thing we publish. There are people, anyway, we can stop now. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate this. And I encourage everybody for support on our platform. You guys are doing great. Let's do this work. We definitely get to arrive at a point where our people will be aware of how to hold governments accountable. My faith is that a well-informed people will definitely find out what it takes to free themselves from this kind of madness where they happen. So let's keep doing it.
Thank you so much. Super.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Prince Semikuma, Mr. Ba, and all of you as themselves. We tell them thank you plenty. We're all on patience, but like you say, all good things must come to an end. And Mr. Ba don't promise we for come back. Hopefully that's ended. We don't even publish more and more details. And so the discussion will even more enticed. And definitely we'll all keep the faith. We all Sierra Leoneans have a responsibility for make sure say we all people who the government accountable. So tomorrow great campaign and say we'll say yes. Udadi them mommy them, that's what we don't do for make sure say this country able to move forward. What will they do? All they do now, collective responsibility. So now all thank you plenty. And Mr. Kuma, thank you plenty. Thank you especially to you as well and to Mr. Ba. And let God bless you all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Fambul, and that every good thing must come to an end. And we've come to an end of this wonderful program. Good night, everyone.